Well, welcome to the first ever Leadership Circle Lunch and Learn, where we will be highlighting United Way of Greater Greensboro Mentoring Matters initiative. We wish we could all be together in person, but we're so thankful that y'all have joined us virtually. My name is Jacqueline White.
And my name is Susan Veazey. We proudly serve with our husbands, Brantley White, who's also on this call, and my husband, Bill Veazey, as leadership co-chairs. We volunteer with the United Way because we are so excited about the United Way's work that is helping to end poverty in our community. Their holistic approach to ending poverty includes making sure that children and families have safe housing and shelter. They also will have nutritious food services, educational supports, job training, placement, and also what we will talk about today, mentoring.
Mentoring creates a tremendously positive impact on youth and helps build solid foundations that make it easier to overcome or avoid poverty. January is officially National Mentoring Month, and we are so grateful you have joined us today to learn more about this important work that you have helped make possible in your communities.
Today, we're going to learn more about mentoring from the perspective of someone who leads one of the United Way mentoring programs, as well as directly from a mentor and mentee. After we hear from them, we'll invite you to ask any questions that you may have. And during the question and answer time, you can verbally ask by unmuting yourself, or feel free to type in the question in the chat box. Also, today's meeting will be recorded and we will share a link to the video in the follow-up email.
Now, on to the show. I'm pleased to briefly introduce Richard Jones, Project Director of Communities in Schools African American Male Initiative. Before we hear from Richard in person, let's take a moment to watch a short United Way video that features him and highlights the power of mentoring.
If you are hungry, if you're cold, if you don't feel confident about your clothing, then it impacts your ability to perform in the classroom. One of the things I knew that helped me make it out of poverty was caring relationships with adults. I am totally proud to be a United Way partner. I believe in their vision. I believe in addressing poverty, lending a hand to those who are less fortunate at the current stage. But then United Way also has the vision of empowering them in a way that no one else is doing in the Greensboro area. The African American Male Initiative is a mentorship program, but as everyone knows, poverty doesn't discriminate. And so we work with any boy. We pair children who are growing up in poverty with mentors who, I call it, they fasten themselves to the children.
I started the mentorship program when I was in 5th grade, but going into high school, I met Richard, and with the mentorship, it kind of just made sure that I'm going into the right path and to make sure that I will be ready for the future.
And so through that relationship, the kids are exposed to things that they otherwise wouldn't be exposed to. You're talking about going to the Civil Rights Museum. You're talking about going to the Science Center. So what happens is that mentor makes learning relevant when they come back into the classroom.
When I was 6, I actually wanted to do what my dad was doing. He's a tow truck driver. Freshman and sophomore year, I actually wasn't thinking about college as much. The mentorship has expanded my eyes in many different ways, especially going into a career. I did about 20 applications. I didn't know how to feel. I kind of was stressed out, and I was just getting off the bus to go home. And once I opened my door, I did see a college application letter on my table. I was a nervous wreck because I just didn't know what to expect. But once I did flip over the paper, it did say I was accepted. I think I was accepted into about 16. Thanks to you, I'm going to college and I decided to be a mentor.
To hear that a kid who came from humble beginnings made it, for me, it was the ultimate joy. I'm able to see kids who signed up for our program compared to kids who did not sign up. The Kevin Mendoza that you see today is not the Kevin Mendoza that started out about 10 years ago.
Looking back at it now, the mentorship program has made me who I am today. I do have the right stuff. You know, United Way has always been there.
Kevin is one of many success stories that your investment into United Way is having across our community. My name is Richard, and I am a part of the movement.
Thank you for supporting United Way's movement to end poverty.
Give, advocate, volunteer today.
Hello, my name is Rashard Jones. I am the project director of Communities and Schools African American Male Initiative. Uh, in 2010, United Way's AAL, which is African American Leadership Group, initiated a discussion around the lack of academic achievement among African American males in Gifford County schools. In particular, it was African American males who were growing up in poverty. I think at the time, less than 50% of African American males were graduating on time. And so communities and schools partnered with United Way, and we initiated a mentorship program. Through our research, we pointed out that there was a large disparity of caring adults in the lives of African American males, in particular those African American males who were growing up in poverty. So just to give you an example, because of there's a high transient rate, oftentimes boys growing up in poverty generally never establish ongoing relationships with their neighbors. Most boys growing up in poverty live in high crime areas. And so oftentimes the parents have trepidation about them establishing relationships with their neighbors. Most of the boys who attend Title I schools, oftentimes teachers, because of the stresses that are associated with teaching boys who are growing up in poverty, there's a high rate of transfers. There are teachers who actually leave the schools mid-year. And what people fail to realize is that over and over again, these kids are losing valuable relationships. I know when I was growing up, a teacher may be in a school for 30 years. And so for a child who doesn't have relationships with people in the community, that teacher was a staple in that child's life. And so now it seems like the teacher's on merry-go-rounds. And oftentimes these kids are growing up in single family households, single parent households. And so 50% of the caring adults who are supposed to be there aren't there. So over and over again, you start to see that these kids fail to have additional caring relationships that are long-term in their lives. And so our mission with our program was to partner every male child at Wiley Elementary with a mentor. The mentor would make a weekly contact with the child. I don't want to leave this out. They make a 3-year commitment to the child to make a weekly contact. And that either takes place at the school or it takes place in the community. And so I call it the mentor earning the right to get into that child's business. And I think a lot of times individuals, they sign up to do one-offs, feel-good moments. But I tell people that kids don't build walls up to keep people out. They build walls up to see who cares enough to tear them down. It requires relationships, ongoing relationships that these kids, where they feel like they can trust individuals for them to become transparent about what's really demobilizing their education in other areas. One of the great areas that we focus on was enrichment, social experiences. What we found, the research suggests that the average child growing up in poverty stays within an 8-mile radius of their home until they turn 13 years old. For major cities like New York and Chicago, it's a 5-mile radius. So you can imagine what the consequences of a child staying within an 8-mile radius of their home until they're 13 years old. Their worlds are very small. So there's a guy by the name of Robert Marzano who says the number one contributor to academic achievement is academic background knowledge. Well, where in the world would kids get academic background knowledge? They get it from academic experiences. Well, their worlds are small. Their lives may look like going to school and coming home, the laundromat and coming home, the grocery store and coming home, but they generally stay within that 8-mile radius. So what United Way has afforded us to do is to partner mentors with these kids. And these mentors oftentimes, they come in from a number of different backgrounds. They come in from the professional community and they fasten themselves to these children. Now, all of a sudden, we have kids who usually stay within an 8-mile radius of their home going to the Natural Science Center just by an adult adding one additional child to their car. I tell people that oftentimes we ask the school system to take kids on field trips to get them enrichment, but that's an expensive feat, all right? But for an adult who's already going to go to the Natural Science Center, who's already going to go to the library with their personal child, to add one more child to their car, we can do that as a community. I tell people that America doesn't have enough money to throw at the issues that we have. We have become our greatest resource to each other. What does it take to mentor? Number one, pass a background check. But if you can pass a background check and care, all right, you qualify to work in our program. I ask people all the time, I say, how many times do you eat a day? And people say, 3 times. So 3 times a day. How many times a week? You eat 21 times. So what I say is take one of those meals and spend it with one of my children. Come to the school, sit down, have a conversation with the child. That's what it is like to be a mentor in our program. And so that's what we do. We've been doing it since 2010. We're 9 years old. We had our first graduating class 2 years ago. We have 2 young men. Actually, Mr. Kozart, who you hear from later, he and I mentored 2 young men, and both of them went to Gifford College together. We have individuals who are who went to the military. We have individuals who are going directly into the workforce. And it's because I guess I should say this. Our goal is that a child would fasten themselves to a mentor. And over time, that child would begin to acquire and adopt some of the life skills of that mentor and begin to display them in their everyday personal lives. And that's what a mentor does. They come along. You don't have to be an expert, a caring adult who's consistent in the life of a child. And so that's what we do as a program. I have Dominique, who's on the channel with us today. And I just wanted Dominique to share with us his experience with the mentorship program. Dominique, how are you
Hello.
today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Well, I just want to give you an opportunity to share with these individuals the impact that the program has had on your life.
Well, I think the mentorship program has had a big impact on my life. I joined when I was in the third grade, and I wasn't really a kid who had a lot of initiative. But after the years in the program and having a mentor that stayed by my side and kept me in a straight path, I realized, it helped me over time and helped me grow as an individual. And it, made me gain some responsibilities. And, I think that it really impacted my life in a positive way.
Awesome. So let me ask you this: what is the activity that you and your mentor do the most that you feel like you get the most value out of?
Well, he usually, talks to me about, the future and, how I want to go about it. And, I'll tell him what I want to do after I graduate. He'll support me, and, he take me to a few colleges that I might be interested in. So,
All right, so that's your mentor's name also.
hmm? I didn't hear you, Mr. Johns.
What's your share with us your mentor's name?
My mentor is Bill Sutton right now. Yeah.
So Bill Sutton has been mentoring in our program for since the beginning. So he's been mentoring 9 years. He's 80 years old now. And Dominique is actually his second mentor who's taken through the program. His first mentor is actually in the Navy now, and he actually comes back and still visits with Mr. Sutton. Mr. Sutton was a basketball coach at North Carolina A&T State University and also a principal. And so he has been a staple in our program. Dominique, is there anything else you'd like to share with us about your experience with the AAMI?
Well, yeah. Overall interacting, with everyone, I'd say I had a wonderful time in the program, and honestly, I'd encourage a lot more people to go through it because it really changes you and makes you better.
Awesome. And Dominique's a senior at Smith High School this year. And have you decided what you're going to do after you graduate, Dominique?
Yes, I want to go into graphic design after I graduate. So,
Awesome, awesome. And so one of the other things that United Way has afforded us to do for these young men, Dominique actually experienced his first employment through the African American Male Initiative, through a funding that we got through United Way. He actually worked in a community garden, and they built. How long? Tell us a little bit about your experience with the community garden before we go, Dominique.
Oh, it was a great experience. It it was, you know, I'm trying to find a way I can put this in words. It was a good experience, and it felt like I was doing more for the community. And so it made me want to do more things like that.
Yeah.
Planting a garden for, for the fresh vegetables for markets. It honestly, it feels good to do those type of things.
It didn't hurt getting paid either, did it?
Hmm?
It didn't hurt getting paid also, right?
Nah, it didn't.
All right. All right. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to a mentor in our program. And, he won't tell you, but he also worked for the program. He did such a great job as a mentor. When we had an opening, I went to Mr. Kozart. He had already retired. And so we begged him to come out of retirement, and he did so. And so at this time, I want to turn it over to Mr. Ulysses Kozart. I think you're muted, Ulysses.
I think somebody must have muted me. Here I am. So listen, my job right here is to kind of paint a picture of what a mentor is, and me being in the mentoring program. So again, I have been mentoring for well over 20 years all over the country. And 5 of those years have been right here in Greensboro since I've been back here. And basically, a lot of this is personal to me. And what I mean by that is, I was fortunate enough to have a lot of different mentors growing up here in Greensboro, from coaches and teachers. Specifically, I saw my father give back for about 25 years with Little League Baseball and the Boy Scouts. And then I had my own Boy Scout leader with whom I was with from about 8 years old until I was about 16 years old. And with that, I kind of equate mentoring with, or being a mentor with like spokes in a wheel. And a kid is likely to have a lot of different people in his or her life growing up and mentoring. And for me, I was just one of those spokes. So let me give you a couple of characteristics, and Rashard has mentioned one right here: caring. I mean, just having a caring personality and a caring characteristic to want to help youth. The other thing is commitment. I saw my dad work all day long and come back at late in the evening and coach a baseball game. I had my own Boy Scout leader to give up a whole week's worth of vacation from the post office and took a bunch of kids across country to the West Coast to a scouting program. Phenomenal. I didn't really understand that then, but as an adult, it's like, wow, he did that without his, leaving his family behind. But one of the things here, and I'll kind of bring it close to home here with Rashard's program, is I saw the then assistant police chief of Greensboro, Brian James, come to the elementary school periodically and give up his lunchtime to read to kids, to interact with kids. And I just thought that was the greatest thing since sliced bread, because you've got your second in command, giving up his time to be with youth. Now you all know that he is the main man. The effects of mentoring, specifically with the AAMI program and Rashard. So please let me give you a few vignettes, as I call them, about my experience with some of the kids. And I remember this 7th grade kid at the time that I was responsible for, and I took him to the A&T farm. I hadn't been to the A&T farm since I was a kid. But the biggest thing that I remember in that engagement was he must have had 5 or 6 of the adults all around, just clamoring him and giving him words of wisdom. Stay in school, stay focused. You can do this. Grades are important, and you too can be a college, go to college and be a college graduate and be a force to be reckoned with in the real world. I had kind of a negative experience with a then seventh grader. He was kind of caught talking back to his teacher. I took the liberty of making contact with his mentor, who happened to be at the time a Greensboro police lieutenant. She had been with this kid for, gosh, probably about 5 years before then. And she did take the time to come in her busy schedule. And what I saw just flabbergasted me. After reading him the riot act, she told that kid 3 times that she loved him. Now, that's a big deal because a lot of these kids never really hear those 3 words. And it literally kind of brought tears to my eyes when I told that story to my wife. Another thing is there was a then 8th grader, and again, through Richard's efforts, I set up a phone call to another person who had gone through this program who now works for Microsoft in Seattle, Washington. And this kid was very technological oriented. And he thought that was the greatest thing since sliced bread. So a 10-minute, supposed to have been a 10-minute conversation, actually turned into about a 45-minute conversation. And let me tell you, this kid more than held his own talking tech-like conversations to this other person that worked for Microsoft. So that was really a great engagement there. And another thing, this happened to be my kid, my personal engagement. And Rashad alluded to, when I first met Rashad, he kind of assigned me this young man who was a 9th grader at the time at the Smith Academy. And through 4 years of working with this young man, from a really shy, non-talkative individual to a very engaged senior, he really took the brunt and worked with himself. He wound up being a personal friend of the other young man in the film, Kevin Mendoza. And he also wound up getting about 50 acceptances to the college. Right now, he is a 2nd semester sophomore at Guilford College, majoring in computer engineering. But the biggest thing that I took from that engagement was when he and I went to lunch after his graduation ceremony, and right before he went on his first plane ride for a robotics conference, still with his high school. And simply it was, Mr. Cozart, thank you. And just him saying that was more than enough for me for the 4 years that he and I were together. So now, having said all of that, let me kind of put my donation hat on. My wife and I have been with United Way, donating back to United Way for about 30 some odd years all over the country. And we've been here with United Way of Greater Greensboro for about the last 5 years, giving back to it. So we can really say that the funding efforts of United Way through programs like the African American Male Initiative and Communities in Schools has been more than a notion. It has been extremely positive. So I encourage all of you on this Zoom call, if you haven't given to United Way, please do so. If you have, please continue to do so. And I challenge each and every one of you to please look to get involved with mentoring in some kind of capacity. So thank you very much. And I think I'll pass it on to us for Q&A right now.
Right. Thanks so much. Richard and Ulysses and Dominique, you're all just amazing. Richard, you could run our country. And you too, Ulysses, I wish you would. And Dominique, you're such an impressive young man. I'm so happy for you and so impressed by your future. I'm just so excited for you. I love this. And it brings tears to my eyes to hear all these stories. They're just amazing, great stories. And meanwhile, now, as Ulysses said, we will take questions from anyone. If you want to unmute or put it in the chat box. Do we have questions in the chat box already?
We do. Jill White, would you like to ask your question, or she was wondering?
Sure. Yeah, no, I have It's always, it's been great to hear from everyone. And we, as a firm, I've attended a couple of the United Way meetings and gatherings, and I did pop on just a couple minutes late getting onto Zoom, but just trying to get a feel for the partnership between the mentors and the program and kind of how you meet those needs. So as a law firm, or as we have older partners and then sometimes associates, like what would be the appropriate route to kind of go connecting? And I know Carrie, and so I thought about following up with Carrie maybe after this meeting as well. But just to kind of see how we can pull partners and connect people in the community to help support this cause.
Yeah, so one of the ways that our program has really grown over the years is because of the relationships that we've established through United Way. I do a lot of speaking at the rallies, and I think that's where the majority of our mentors come from. So I think it would be great, Jill, if a platform was created for me to come. I'm sure a lot of your attorneys are extremely busy, but for me to come to your firm one day and sit down and give a presentation of what's required and what the time commitments are for our program, I would definitely love the opportunity to do so.
Great, thank you.
And let me go ahead and say also, so when you're talking about professionals like lawyers and attorneys, I've interacted with a lot of different professional people that got into mentoring, and I know Rashad has other mentors in the professional capacity as well, bankers and the like. And just remember the fact is that though Rashad says that this is a relationship, and if you get involved with his program, you know, he does have a specific commitment, is that there is something as simple as I said with Mr. Brian James, is just coming and giving an hour for lunch at lunchtime, okay? Is more than a notion, and you don't know how much positively you can affect a child just by that little bit of time.
Yeah, there was some interesting data that we found about our programs. We had some kids that we knew were missing a lot of days of school, and we went down and drilled down on the days that they were missing versus the days they weren't. What we found out was that the days that they knew their mentors were coming to school, they never missed those days. And so it just shows the power of them knowing that someone that who cared for them was going to be there at that school. And so that's powerful. Yeah.
Jill's question prompted a question that for me, which is, I wonder if the mentoring program has looked for partnerships. You know, Jill's question prompted me to think about partnerships with law firms or, you know, other businesses. But I then got thinking about some of the Rotary clubs in town, and some of them are doing some type of mentorship program. Is this program already affiliated with them, and are you able to draw from that group to find a critical mass, if you will?
So some of our stronger mentors are Rotarians. We have, I want to say we have around 4 who are Rotarians who are already participating. And it seems like about once a year, I go around to each one of the Rotary clubs and introduce our program to them. And they support it in a number of different ways. We also do job shadowing. And so we've had a number of them open up their companies for our kids to come in and shadow some of their employees as well. So even outside of the 3-year commitment weekly contact, we want to also expose our kids to enrichment activities, and the Rotary Club has done both.
I also had a question in the chat for Dominique. I was wondering what it was that his mentor did, and maybe this is a general question for others as well. What did his mentor do that enabled him to build a level of trust and confidence to allow him to have the kind of impact that he's been able to have? To your point earlier about how, you know, you need to break through that wall.
Well, the reason I was able to, establish trust with my mentor is because I felt like he trusted me, and he showed me, various, different points of his life, and he introduced me to his family, and I got acquainted with them. So it made me feel like I was a part of their family as well.
And I
And
tell
so
you,
they said the greatest.
just to add to that, with my mentee, I made sure that I made a relationship with his family at the time. Time his mother was here, and he had three sisters, so he was the only male in the household. So every transaction that I had with him, I made sure that I would call his mother and let his mother know that here's what I want to do with him today, and if I had her permission to do so, and she knew exactly where we were going and what we were going to be doing.
Yeah. And they say that I tell people now the greatest ability is availability. And so I think consistency is what I found over time. Again, a lot of our kids suffer broken relationships all the time. And so a lot of times it's tougher for them to allow the mentor into their lives. I think people want to come to the school and immediately think that the kid is supposed to open up their hearts to them. But a lot of times the kids are protecting themselves because they've let so many adults in who have broken promises. And so the availability, the consistency is what oftentimes breaks down those walls that oftentimes the kids may have up towards a stranger. Also, I guess I should say at this point that if you are interested in becoming a mentor, you can go to our website at www.aamicis.org and just click on the Get Involved tab.
And Richard, do you feel like the connection with the United Way, it helps, like our mentors able to then connect them to our job placement centers or, family success center, or, do you feel like there's one more step that the mentors learn about from the United Way?
Yeah, so I'll say that United Way becomes an immediate vetting process. When people find out that we are a United Way agency, their guards go down and they just feel like, all right, we can trust this organization because of our affiliation. But then Mentoring Matters. So we're African American Male Initiative, but then Mentor Matters is actually a hub, and they offer a number of different trainings, resources for our mentors and other agencies who come in. And so there's so many just assets of us being affiliated with United Way.
And I think, Susan, I can attest the fact is that when I straddle both lines, because I've been volunteering with United Way for a long time, but Elizabeth Green has been very important to my wife and I think all of the different programs that I have come in contact with in the last few years, has been very instrumental in me understanding United Way of Greater Greensboro and how it has related to mentoring of youth, especially the male youth.
That's great to hear.
And I guess you should also say that United Way also, I want to say spoils us in a lot of ways, but we get a number of tickets to different events in the community, which makes it easier for our mentors to volunteer without having to spend their own money. Now, many of them don't mind, but when we have tickets to the Coliseum through a relationship that Elizabeth Green brokered, I think we get tickets to the season tickets to UNCG basketball. And we create a library and we raffle those off to the mentors. And so those are the type of things that just makes our program even more attractive to the mentors when they find out we have those type of resources to assist them in their efforts.
Do we have any more questions? Okay, well, thanks so much to our just amazing, wonderful presenters and all of the attendees for attending this great Lunch and Learn. This is the reason why Bill and I give to the United Way and the leadership level and above, because of everything you've heard today and more. I'm very proud of the impact it makes in our community, and it continues to keep helping to end poverty in our community. And we feel like when we give our gift, as many of you also here on the call, give your gift, the United Way knows how to leverage it in our community and make it work.
Hey, Susan, I was trying to get off mute. I just have a quick question. So I just
Sure.
went onto the website and filled out the form, Richard. So what would be the next step after you say, hey, I want to volunteer? Is there a training program or something that the mentors are given before being assigned to a mentee?
Yeah, so because communities and schools is partnered with the school system, different county schools has to do a criminal background check for everyone who signs up in our program. It generally takes around 48 hours for that background check to come back to us. Once that comes back to us, we have about an hour and a half training that we actually facilitate through Zoom at the time. Once you go through the training, cleared through the background check, go through the training, then we begin to identify the child. We do like a character match based off of the interests and the hobbies of the mentor. We try to partner them with the student. And so probably within 2 weeks, we can have you engaged with the mentor. I will say that right now, all of our mentoring is taking place through Zoom. And so we haven't, we're trying to wait for the middle school and high schoolers to actually come back into the school before we begin to reestablish matches, just because we think it'd be kind of awkward establishing the mentor match through Zoom as opposed to in person. And so right now we're not doing as many matches, but the kids who already have mentors are being mentored through Zoom. We have virtual tours going on. We have college tours going on right through Zoom.
Great, thank you so much.
Thanks for the question.
Terrific.
So
Any
I
other
think,
questions? Go ahead, Jacqueline.
okay. So thank you. And, you know, whether it's mentoring, kindergarten preparedness, GED completion, financial coaching, or helping someone land a job, you know, United Way is providing a pathway out of poverty to people of all ages in our community. And we have you all to thank so much for that. Thank you for helping with this campaign. And we hope that you'll work with us during our next campaign next year. Thank you so much.
So everyone, stay tuned for more Lunch and Learn. We'll have this video available soon, follow-up email link. And in the future, we're gonna have some more Lunch and Learn series highlighting additional ways that we are making a difference in our community. And we appreciate you joining us today and hearing these wonderful stories and wonderful impacts. Please share the video with friends, family, colleagues, law firms, etc. And we hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.